Ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. And welcome to the Tuesday, July 8th, 2008 meeting of the Glendale City Council. Mr. City Clerk, could you call the roll?
Council members Najarian.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Quintero. Yusefian.
Here.
Mayor Draymond.
Here. Mr. City Clerk, who has the flag salute today?
Council member Najarian.
Councilmember Najarian.
Please stand up and place your hand over your heart and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the invocation, which will be delivered by Chaplain Al Garcilaso of the Glendale Advanced Medical Center.
Let's pray. Our great God and Creator, we thank you for life and health and for the many blessings that you've bestowed upon us. And as we gather here today for the City Council meeting, I pray that you'll guide our City Council members and all those who will be involved or participate in this meeting. Please grant them wisdom and insight as they deal with the various issues and challenges facing us today. I also ask that you'll bless our city and all those who live and work here. May we continue to do our part so that Glendale can remain the jewel city of Southern California. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Mr. Kasakian, could we hear your report, please?
Certainly. The agenda for the July 8th, 2008 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, July 3rd, 2008 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And could we hear the first item?
Under presentation and appointments, at 3A is agenda preview for the meetings of July 15, 2008.
Okay, and I take it we're going to go to Mr. Tattali.
Thank you, Mayor, General Members of Council. On the July 15th Glendale Housing Authority agenda, there is one item. It's the Director of Community Development and Housing regarding specialized legal services for an affordable housing development in Glendale. There is one item under the Glendale Redevelopment Agency agenda, and that's a public hearing regarding the proposed development of the Hyatt Place, Glendale, to be located at 225 West Wilson Avenue. There will also be a special meeting of the City Council. It's regarding a design review case number PDR 2007-126-A, located at 128 to 132 South Kenwood Street. And finally, on the City Council agenda, there are two presentations. The first is a nomination, under presentations and appointments, I should say, is a nomination assignment for the Audit Committee by Councilmember Weaver and a nomination assignment for the Audit Committee by Councilmember Yusefian. There is a number of action items as well. At 8A is a General Manager of Glendale Water and Power regarding the approval of the Green Partners Program. At 8B is the City Attorney regarding 3612 Linda Vista Road. At 8C is the City Attorney regarding discussion of process for annual appointment of the Mayor. And at 8D is the General Manager of Glendale Water and Power regarding execution of a contract with Southern California Public Authority and Alliance for Cooperative Energy Services Power Marketing, LLC, an amendment to the contract with Pattern Recognition Technologies, and a new contract with Ventix Energy, LLC to provide support services in the area of real-time energy transactions and scheduling.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taktalian. Could we hear the item at 3B, please?
Mr. Mayor, 3B is a nomination assignment for the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee, the CDBG Advisory Committee, and this is for seat number 1. The nomination will be made by Councilmember Yusefian.
Okay, thank you. The next item, please.
4 is City Council and staff comments.
Yeah, let's go to Mr. Weaver.
Yes, I'd like to adjourn tonight's meeting in the memory of another dear friend, Bill Lofthouse. He's president of Phoenix Decorating Company, and I've worked with him for some 15 years. He constructs the Glendale Rose Float and gets it on the street. Bill was entered the Pasadena Tournament of Roses in 1955, and then later owned Phoenix Decorating with his wife. His children are all involved. His daughter designs floats, and his son handles the physical construction of it. And his daughter-in-law handles the flowering of the float. He is a former city councilman in Bradbury, California, past president of the Pasadena YMCA Board of Directors, past president and continuing member of the Pasadena Optimist Club. Was a moving force in major events throughout the country and around the world. and he was elected to the International Festival and Event Association Hall of Fame, the California Festivals and Events Association, and the International Festival and Events Association. Some of the events he worked in, he worked on the Orange Bowl Parade, the Kentucky Derby Festival, Indianapolis 500 Festival, National Day Celebration in Singapore, and the Pre-Olympic Parade in Seoul, Korea. He was very active, a dear friend, and his death on Sunday was a shock. Didn't expect that at all, so I'd like to adjourn in his memory.
Mr. Weaver, is this the gentleman who came before us when we were seeing the your design?
Yes,
He was here.
very sudden. My age. Jeez,
Okay.
very.
Let me go, excuse me, to Councilmember Yusefian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apparently, this week has not been a very good one. I also would like to close this meeting in memory of Clara Ralston. Clara was a member of the Glendale Beautiful since 1986. She was also a member of the subcommittee to Glendale Rose Pruning and Garden Show when I used to work with her on that show, and for 2 days we would have about 2,000 people show up, and it was a very successful show. Clara worked with all the committee members and also with all the Glendale Beautiful people for many, many years, over 20 years. So I guess she will be up there helping the mighty Lord to put together other rose pruning and garden shows. She's going to be missed. That's one item. And the second item is I also had an opportunity to go to the Montrose auto show that they had for antique shows. I will tell you, no offense to cruise night organizers, but I will tell you the quality of the vehicles that were up in Montrose was just spectacular. They were all high-end, high-quality, beautiful vehicles. If you hadn't had an opportunity to go this year, I would strongly suggest that you go next year. All the cars are by invitations, and there were some beauties over there. And the last item is, Mr. Mayor, about 2 years ago, this council had requested to put on the agenda to discuss the two commissions. One is Parks and Rec, and the other one is the TPC that sets certain guidelines and also fees. As you heard, last week the Parks and Rec put different amounts of fees on all their recreation facilities. I've received some calls from the people who use those facilities. They asked me to let the rest of my colleagues know that they were not given any notice. They had no idea this was going to happen, and there was no testimony provided because they did not notify them, and they are large users. And so I would like to know when that item is going to come back to the council, because apparently two commissions in the city are setting prices and fees, and sometimes new fees without us knowing about it until after the fact. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, let's see if we can't put that on the agenda and get the information for August. Possible? Okay. Mr. Yusefian, was there anything else?
That's it.
Mr. Najari?
My comment is for Mr. Howard. Several weeks ago, we had discussed and given some direction to the city attorney's office to develop an ethics ordinance regarding contributions within a certain amount of time of voting on a matter coming before council, etc. I mean, to paraphrase, there was a lot to it. What I'd also like you to do is to look at the address the penalties as well, and I'd like to see a range of criminal penalties, not just fines or prohibitions without any teeth to it. So if you can give us, when we discuss that, if you can give us a range of potential penalties, I'd appreciate that.
I think that would fall under the category of put some teeth in it, I think. And just so people understand, who's been calling it sort of informally by a lot of different names, we're talking about the solicitation
Ordinance.
Correct. Okay, and that's set to come back in August?
August
We're looking at
26th.
26th, okay, all right.
With teeth.
With teeth. Okay, all right, anything else, Mr.
Thank you.
Okay, that is it, I have nothing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I may make
Please.
a comment. In addition to the two individuals in whose memory we'll be asking to adjourn the meeting, I would ask the council members or you to also adjourn in memory of Cheryl Ann Schiff, who at 75 passed away in Boca Raton peacefully on last Tuesday, July 2nd, 2008. She was a beloved wife of Edward for 52 wonderful blessed years, the loving mother of Daniel M. Schiff and of our own U.S. Congressman Adam Schiff. Sherry's blessings included her daughters-in-law, Amy Sporer Schiff and Eve Sanderson Schiff, her grandchildren, of course. A memorial service was held on Sunday morning, July 6th at 10 a.m. at the Rubin Memorial Chapel located at 7340 Boynton Beach Boulevard. She was for many years involved in local area politics, obviously, through her son, but even before that, I think she set the precedent for her children to be involved and her son to run for Congress and, of course, state Senate previously. And the congressman has asked that in lieu of flowers, donations to be sent in his mother's name, Cheryl Schiff, to the following: Hospice by the Sea at 1531 West Palmetto Park Road in Boca Raton, Florida, 33486. And my office can provide that information to anyone who would wish to do so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kasakian. Are there any other staff comments? Hear none. Mr. City Clerk, the next item, please.
Next item is consent items, and they include the minutes. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed.
Okay, I have a request to pull items 5B like boy and 5C like cat.
Mr. Mayor, I move the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second.
All right. May we have the roll call, please?
Council members Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Yusefian.
Aye.
Mayor Draymond.
Yes. Could we hear the item at 5B, please?
5B is Fire Chief regarding used oil recycling block grant 14th cycle 2008-2009 application. At B1 is a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application to the California Integrated Waste Management Board.
And our speaker on that item is Dr. Richard Espiritu.
C,
Oh, you have one for 5B and one for 5C. Did you not mean to? Okay. Okay, this one is 5B. Did you not want to speak on this?
I'll move 5B then.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. City Clerk, could you call the roll on 5B? like
Certainly.
boy?
Mr. Mayor, Council members Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Yusefian. Mayor Draymond.
Yes. All right. Let's hear the item at 5C.
5C is Director of Public Works regarding fiscal year 2007-08 West Glendale ADA curb ramp and sidewalk installation project, spec number 3330. C1 is a resolution adopting plans and specs and directing the city clerk to advertise for bids.
All right. Now let's hear from Dr. Espiritu on 5C.
I'm sorry for that mistake. That was totally
Not
my
a problem
fault.
at all.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council and staff. I am Dr. Richard Espiritu. I have a problem with this staff report. It says the availability of plans and specifications is available for review at the City Clerk's office. It's not there. They ran around and gave it to me this afternoon, just before the City Council meeting this evening. But I'm opposed to this project for the following reasons. After I did review this, the report says uninterrupted access by disabled persons. On June 17th, 2008, the Federal Registry submitted the latest plans regarding ADA accessible pathways. This proposal after reviewing it, has overlooked several items in this particular area. The other issue is that this particular census tract, 3016.2, block tract number 2, has no people with disabilities, mobile disabilities that reside in that block tract based on the U.S. Census Bureau, and there are less than 400 residents in that area. And it used to be a horse zoning area, and I believe that's probably the reason why they didn't have any situations for sidewalks. I think this money, the $525,000 to $580,000, should be used for the 2 zones that were done previously and areas that were not fixed, such as in front of Burger King and the curb cuts that are non-existent on Pacific Avenue, south of Colorado. Thank you very much.
Dr. Spiritu, when you say in front of Burger King, for those
Burger
of us
King
who
on
don't know
Glen
which
Oaks.
Burger King you're referring to.
Glen Oaks.
Glen Oaks, okay. Thank you very much. Is there a motion on 5C?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes. Mr. Yusefi.
I'd like to ask a question from Steve Zern. When we do the ADA curb cuts, do we check to see if there are a number of people who live, do we do the check?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Yusefi, no. In fact, the law doesn't require you to do that. Whether or not somebody lives there or not is not the criteria you use. If somebody was traveling through Glendale and came through there and said we didn't have ramps, they could bring legal action against us. You do not have to live here. You can be visiting for an hour or moving in later. So those aren't criteria, and we don't use those as criteria.
So, and how do you determine, how did you pick this location? Are we doing other work?
No, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Yusefi, this was a particular area that we used community development block grant monies on. This is a census tract that was available or a census tract that qualified for us to use that. One of the projects you can do under CDBG is ADA upgrades.
Right.
So working with community development, we submitted this as a request to the committee. It was approved, and we're proceeding with that. There's a lot of new sidewalk in this area as well.
Got it. Move the item. Second.
Okay. We have a motion, the second. Mr. Kasakian, if you would, please.
Council members Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Yusefian,
Aye.
Mayor Draymond.
Yes. Have the next item, please.
Next item is oral communications.
Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, we will hear oral communications at the end of the agendized items, but at this point in time, we'll hear from those who are willing to volunteer to limit their time to 3 minutes for the purpose of making public announcements. I have one speaker card, and that's from Leon Mayer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, member of the council. My name is Leon Mayer. I'm here on behalf of the Friends of the Glendale Public Library. I'm chairman of the Author Artisan Friends Series. A week from Thursday, we're going to have the book called Shaku Mako. It's authored by Phil Borden. He was a contractor for the State Department, and the subtitle of this book is On the Ground in Occupied Iraq, and he discusses his efforts as a small business man to develop a small business development center in Iraq. He talks about the pros and cons. It should be very interesting. That's a week from Thursday. Now, 2 weeks from Thursday, we're having a very interesting event. We're going to have the son of Barry Goldwater to talk about his father's life in the book called Pure Goldwater. Now, I shouldn't have to say too much about the senior Goldwater, but I will. Barry Goldwater was one of the icons of American Republican politics and American politics as well. And during his lifetime, he spent 50 years doing a private journal almost every day of the interesting things that happened to him and his personal observations during his time in politics. And just recently, fairly recently, his son Barry Goldwater Jr., who is a Republican congressman for now retired, who was reelected 6 times from his district in northern Los Angeles, he got access to these private journals, and he's written co-written a biography of his father. He's almost a dead ringer for his father, and I would think there's going to be a lot of people who want to see Barry Goldwater Jr., if for no other reason, to see Barry Goldwater Sr. in his presence and in his presence. So he will be here a week from Thursday. We urge everybody to come, and we urge everybody to join the Friends of the Library. And I just got a nice card from the Friends talking about our current events. Actually, we have 3 July events. I'll talk about the event about knitting socks. There's a lady who wrote a book about knitting socks. I'll talk about that at a later time. But you can get these applications to join the Friends by just coming to the library or calling me anytime when you see me walking around the halls of the library or the halls of the City Council. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Mayor, and you might want to tell the audience in the remaining seconds what shaku maku means.
Shaku maku, I just happen to know that. I'm glad you asked that question. Shaku maku is an old Babylonian saying which means what's happening.
Yeah.
And of course, Philip Borden is going to talk about what's happening or what's been happening in Iraq.
Thank you. It's a word that we on the dais know. We all speak fluent Babylonian up here. We were just testing you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, we do babble, but Babylonian?
All right. Very good. Let's go to the next item, please, Mr. City Clerk.
At 8 under action items, at 8A is city manager regarding requests from the Homeland and Glendale IRAD chapter seeking the city's endorsement of the 2008 Glendale Friendship Games event. At 8A1 is motion endorsing the event.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I have one speaker card before, actually 2 speaker cards. Before I do that, though, do we have a motion on this?
So moved.
I'll move it.
All right. Any comments before I go to our speakers? No. Okay. Dr. Richard Espiritu, followed by Armand Gorgorian.
Once again, good evening, Mr. Mayor. I am Dr. Richard Espiritu. I am in favor of the City Council endorsing the Glendale Friendship Games for the following reasons. I believe that, number one, it will reduce tension within the city of Glendale. Number two, it won't cost the city anything other than some papers saying that we do endorse the games. However, as I said to Mr. Gregorian last year, I wish he would be able to provide some sort of games due to the fact these are friendship games to reduce tension between the various ethnic groups within the city of Glendale. I would also like to see him provide some sort of limited games for those children who are disabled also in the city of Glendale. So once again, I'd like to urge the City Council to go ahead and do the endorsement of these friendship games.
Thank you, Dr. Spiritu. Our second and last speaker on this subject is Armand Gorgorian. And I think he brought some friends with him.
Recognizable.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Starbird. Unfortunately, I don't come here very often, so Mr. Draymond, late. Congratulations on your mayorship.
Hey, wait, tell him not to sit down. Up.
I'm going to be very short because I want my younger friends to be talking today. This year we are going to organize the 3rd annual Glendale Friendship Games, which is going to be happening October 18th and 19th. The 19th will be the closing ceremony. I would like to invite Ms. Ani Lazikhanian to do the talking, and then a couple of other kids will be following up. These are our Glendale Friendship Games ambassadors this year. We're going to younger kids to do the work.
Okay, very good.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members, staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ani Gazikanian, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Glendale Friendship Games. I represent the Homanetme Glendale Aura chapter as a coach and a player. These games were created for the specific unity amongst our city's diverse group of athletes. This year is the 3rd year that the Friendship Games will be held. During the month of October, on the dates 18th and 19th, athletes from a variety of sports will compete at the Glendale High School campus, the Glendale Sports Complex, and the Arad Center. These sports include soccer, rhythmic gymnastics, table tennis, basketball, volleyball, tennis, and chess. With these games, players make new friends and meet old ones as well. With the friendly environment, the participants of the sports can enjoy the comfortable and friendly atmosphere. Not only do the contestants benefit from these games, but spectators do as well. They can enjoy the games and the cultural diversity. Every player will receive a t-shirt, and the first and second place players will receive medals. In addition, Glendale High, the sports complex, and the Arad Center have excellent athletic fields and gyms. There will be a minimum fee for participants. We would be honored to have the city's endorsement, and we encourage all interested to take part in the games. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Well, thank you very much.
Once again, good evening to everyone. My name is Brian Musayan, and I am also an athlete from the Hometman Arad chapter. As stated, the purpose of the Glendale Friendship Games is to bring all of Glendale's athletes together in one place to have fun while competing in the sports that they love. Very importantly, although there are matches and competitive games, the Glendale Friendship Games aren't must-win tournaments, but are rather just opportunities for athletes to play and compete, however in a casual setting. The Arad chapter understands and appreciates all the resources granted by the city to us for better facilities and other necessary items. We believe that the Friendship Games are the best way for us to give back to the community and to show our appreciation to you. The city's endorsement would greatly and positively contribute to our cause. We want the games to be as fun for everyone as much as possible. Everybody is welcome, and please come join us. You could find out more information and
That's all right.
sign up on the web at auragfg.com.
Very good. I think we have one more speaker. We're going to bend the rules a little bit tonight.
Okay, thank you. Hello, and good evening, everyone. My name is Arman Hamama, and as are Brian and Ani, I am an athlete from the Hometman Arad chapter in Glendale. As you already know, we're here to present you some of the topics regarding the Glendale Friendship Games. These games are not only about competition and winning. Friendship. Found in the name of the event itself, friendship is what these games are all about. Bringing people together through sports, friendships will be created and strengthened. Friendships that will last as long as the people who created them live. All people are invited to these games to have fun, make friends, and enjoy the competition brought to them by their fellow brothers and sisters through the sports they love to play. All Glendale residents are invited to the Friendship Games that will take place on October 18th and 19th of this year.
Thank you very much. Mr. Weaver.
For all of you young people at the Nasardian closing ceremonies, marching with the 2,500, is it, from Arad chapter? I saw you, Armin. I just can't place all of you. By far the largest contingent. I just hope one year you would have a temperature less than 100 degrees sitting in the stand.
It's true. I want you as representatives of this city to be very proud of our organization, because we were the largest when we were all around the field, and we weren't done yet.
I know when you were passing in front, you were still entering from the other side. Very, very good. You got a lot of applause.
And Armand, you might, Mr. Gregorian, you may want to explain to people listening in where the games are held. I know, obviously, the soccer is held in one area and the rest at school facilities.
Majority of the event will be held at Glendale High School, and we have the endorsement and sponsorship of Glendale Unified School District. Actually, they've been kind enough and not charging for the facilities, only for the labor, and we appreciate that. We will have some of the soccer games at Sports Complex, and some of the basketball games will be held at our own facilities. But the closing ceremony, Saturday and Sunday, 18th and 19th, will be at Glendale High School.
But you left out the tennis, the chess.
They're all there.
They're all there, but the public doesn't necessarily know.
Well, tennis, chess, ping pong, they'll all be held there. Soccer at Sports Complex, and the final games will be at Glendale High School, and the basketball games also will be both places.
And volleyball is?
At Glendale High School.
Glendale High. Okay, let me go to my colleagues. Mr. Najarian.
I've attended several years. My children have actually competed in the swimming. And this is only possible through the help of several sponsors, Mr. Gregorian. Sponsors that year in, year out help not just Hometman, but many other civic groups throughout the city. Would you mind mentioning them, just so we give them
Of course,
fair
I'll
play?
be glad to do that. In the past 2 years, we've had the sponsorship by Wells Fargo Bank. We've had Pacific BMW, which both of them were very instrumental in helping us. The first year we were first-timers and we lost a lot of money. We lost about $17,000. But last year we did a little bit better, so we lost only $3,000-4,000. But we do need all kinds of sponsors for our program.
And let us know when the entries are being taken.
As
So
our
groups
ambassadors mentioned here, we have a website which is /GFG. All the applications are online there. Anybody that is willing to participate as a group or as an individual, for individual, they can go online and fill in the application and pay online through PayPal. So it's very easy.
Very good.
We have spoken to all the school districts, and we actually have a very good relationship with the AYSO. The past 2 years, they submitted some teams and participated in the games. Also, last year, they had some referees that helped us, and that was one of the reasons that our cost went down a little bit, and we hope very much that they will do the same here this year.
Let me go to my colleague, Councilmember Yusefian,
And
for the final word here.
all I just want to let you know is the packet you gave me, it just kind of reminded me on the first one, apparently the city of Glendale took on, and the school district took on our chapter members, which I must say we won. That's because we had the ringer, Bob Franz, in there. And
that
the
was
man
not
would
the
hit.
reason.
Yeah, that was the reason. We were good. We were good. It
Mr.
was us,
Youssef-
Chapchin, and the ringer.
Councilman Yusefian, we are learning the politics of this city, so we let you win.
Very good, Armin.
Nice. Spoken like a diplomat. Well, thank you.
And I thank you very much.
Dorian,
Hope
thank
to
you.
see you all there.
Absolutely. We thank you. How about a round of applause for these folks? Okay. Sorry.
Would you like to vote?
Yes, we do need to vote. Yes, thank you. If there's no further discussion from my colleagues on the dais, I don't have any other speaker cards. Mr. Kasakian, let's call the roll.
Council members Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver, Yusefian, Mayor Draymond.
Yes. Thank you. Let's go on to the next item, please.
At 8B, as city manager, regarding a report and discussion regarding the establishment of a 24-hour city access telephone number. B1 is motion providing direction to staff.
Okay, thank you. And I have one speaker card on this. This is Dr. Espiritu.
Once again, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council.
Good evening.
I would like to thank the gentleman who wrote this report. He did a very good job. And I believe this would make a very good program for the city of Glendale. However, I'd like to ask two questions, because you have a situation with option number 1 and option number 2 and 3 were kind of vague and ambiguous. What languages would be available for the people who call in who do not speak English? Number 3, and later on you'll understand why I picked these 3. If a person calls in who speaks Lithuanian, Guyanese, or Nigerian, what would happen? How would they get services if a tree fell down and they needed to get removed? Thank you very much for your time and consideration. I would hope the language issue would be addressed.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Espiritu. So, Mr. Taktalian, if a tree falls in Lithuania, let's say, near the Niemen River, and no one was there to speak Lithuanian, did the tree actually fall?
Mayor Draymond, members of council, this is a topic that we did discuss at the staff level prior to drafting the report. As we do on a normal day-to-day basis, we would make every attempt to find somebody that would be able to translate for this individual. However, seeing as how some of these calls, may come in at 2, 3 in the morning, we would make our best effort to attempt to assist them.
Well, just to supplement that,
Yes,
if
Mr.
it's a serious matter and they dial 911, both the police and the fire department have access to multiple language translation services that they utilize currently. So if it's something that could wait till the next working day, we could probably make arrangements for translation. But if it's serious enough that we can't understand them, we'd probably refer them to 911, police or fire department, where they'd utilize their contract translation services that has multiple languages available for translation.
Very good. Okay. Yes, Mr. Weaver.
Yes, there's 65 languages spoken in our school system alone. So I don't know how we could possibly provide the service internally for 65 languages, the way you suggested.
And if I can, we can't. I mean, obviously, we couldn't all 65, but we have the best bet if we need to of referring it to police or fire.
I like option 2. I would just say we have to, as I've discussed with you, John, an easy-to-remember number, like 548, everybody knows that, but 8888, or you suggested city or something that will ring a bell with everybody. They'll just automatically know what it is. That's the only thing.
Something like HELP.
That's good, too. 548 help.
Let me also let me start on the right here and call on Councilmember Yusefian and get his input.
I like option 3, except option 3 has a price tag of $1 to $25 million, and since I don't have $1 or $25 million, I think I'll move up to option 2.
Good choice.
It's option 4.
That's option 4, sorry.
That's the 311 system.
Right, that's right. So I'm on option 2.
Okay. Councilmember Najarian.
I also like option 2. It does not result in any additional fiscal impact to the city, and the calls are going to be routed appropriately during normal hours, and then afterwards passed on to Public Works, and then to the Howard Substation call center. I'm okay with number 2.
Okay, and I might as well make it unanimous. That was the option that I had selected also, option number 2. And I'd also just like to add, as Dr. Espiritu pointed out, I thought it was a very well-written report. So I want to thank John Taktalian for that. Is there anything else to add before we...
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the the item with option 2, adding that, if possible, to get a number that says 548 help. I think that was a good
That sounds
idea you
good.
came up with.
I'll second that.
All right. And do we need, Mr. City Attorney, should that not be available, do we need to be that specific, or?
The phraseology is "if possible,"
Okay.
That's what I said.
and if it's possible, we can do it. If not, it's some other number, hopefully,
That is
that
easy
staff
to
can look at,
remember.
working with the phone company to get a number that's easy to remember.
Okay.
All right, 548 stop?
So do we have a second to that?
Yes, I
motion?
did.
Oh, okay. All right.
We do not have a second?
Yes,
Oh,
we
we
did.
do?
Mr. Weaver
Okay.
now.
Sorry.
All right. If there's no other discussion, let's hear the roll call on that, Mr. Yusefian's motion.
Council members Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Yusefian. Mayor Draymond.
Yes. Could we hear the next item, please?
At AC City Manager regarding request from the Kiwanis Club of Glendale for co-sponsorship of the 4th Annual Kiwanis Incredible Duck Splash. At C1 is a motion to co-sponsor the 4th Annual Kiwanis Incredible Duck Splash.
Well, who has their water wings on? Who can talk to us about
I'll
this?
take a quack at this one.
You take a quack at it? Oh,
Take a
boy.
quack at it.
Actually, he's on a roll, so I'll go to Assistant to the City Manager, John Taktalian. John?
Evening once again, Mayor Draymond, members of council. On May 21st, 2008, the Kiwanis Club of Glendale submitted a letter requesting the City of Glendale to co-sponsor their 4th annual Kiwanis Incredible Duck Splash. The event is scheduled to take place on October 18th at Verdugo Park, where they'll create an artificial lake, and thousands of yellow ducks will race from one end to the other. This is a fundraising event, and the beneficiaries are primarily children and youth in Glendale and the surrounding communities. Kiwanis Club of Glendale has asked the City of Glendale to once again co-sponsor this event by providing a 50% discount on all fees related to staffing costs and facility rentals. Currently, the only fees associated with this event are rental fees imposed by Parks and Recreation on the rental of the Verdugo Park facility, as well as the cost of water for the particular event. Glendale Water and Power will be out at the event and meter the amount of water used to calculate that fee. The cost of the park rental is $3,400, and the estimated cost of the water is approximately $66. The water used at this particular event will be recycled at the end of the day, so it won't go to waste. The total fiscal impact, once the 50% discount is applied, if council was to approve the co-sponsorship, would be approximately $1,740. And I believe Mr. Vic Ledgerton is here from the Kiwanis organization to speak on the event, if there's any questions.
Do we have any questions? Mr. Yusefian.
I'd like to move the item, also mentioning that I went for a ribbon cutting and I was cornered by some of the Kiwanis people there, and they extracted funds from me, so I just want to let you know that don't look at me again. But it's a very good organization, and I must say that a lot of the money comes back to the city to an extent, to a different organization.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no other comments, I have no speaker cards. Let's call the roll.
Council members Najarian,
Yes?
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Yusefian.
Aye.
Mayor Draymond.
Yes. Mr. Tucktellian, by the way, you mentioned we recycle the water. Are we recycling the ducts, too? Or
We actually do.
they are being recycled?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Used every year.
Waste not, want not. Mr. City Clerk, let's move on to the item at 8D1. 8D.
8D is Director of Public Works regarding 2008 Congestion Management Program, CMP. At D1 is motion setting a hearing date on August 5th, 2008.
All right, let me go
Move
to...
the item.
Second.
Okay. Just once I'd like to form the words before I get the motion in a second.
It's just a date.
All righty. I have no speaker cards. Does anybody have any comments on this? No.
For a hearing.
Sets a date requirement.
Mr. Kazaki.
Council members Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Yusefian.
Aye.
Mayor Draymond.
Yes. We hear the item at 9.
9A is under hearings, and 9A is Director of Administrative Services Finance regarding fiscal year 2008-2009 for North San Fernando Road Corridor Landscape Maintenance District. At 9A1 is a resolution approving the engineer's annual levy report for the City of Glendale's North San Fernando Road Corridor Landscape Maintenance District. 9A2 is a resolution ordering the levy and collecting of the City of Glendale's North San Fernando Road Corridor Landscape Maintenance District.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. City Manager, I assume we are going to Mr. Elliott.
You got to open the hearing.
I will open the hearing, but I'm not going to do it just yet. I would like to know who we're going to hear from.
We're getting ahead of...
It's like Mr. Elliott.
Mr. Elliott.
Okay,
I'm here. I don't have any ducks.
no ducks. All right, let me formally open the hearing. And now you're official, Mr. Elliott.
Hearing. Before you tonight is conducting the hearing and approving the engineer's report and ordering the levy and collection of the assessment district. The amount is $31,381. Funds are used for, obviously, landscape maintenance. Here tonight are the consultants that put the report together, Stacy Reynolds and Jennifer Storstein from Muni Financials. So if there's any questions, we can answer this for you.
I have a question.
Mr. Yusefian.
On the landscape maintenance, I understand this is to pay for maintenance on San Fernando, basically on the trees that we planted and so on and so forth. What I want to know is, does this also cover the maintenance of the landscaping that's going to be next to the railroad tracks? Does that cover that?
I didn't see a head shake that it does not.
It does not.
No, it does not.
Off the air there.
Okay, and who deals with the maintenance of that section?
We'll
Because it's on
have
San
to
Fernando.
we'll have to be doing that in-house.
Okay.
That'll either be an effort between Public Works and Parks, or we'll use contract services.
And why didn't we include that? Because we couldn't, or how does that work?
There's no landowners adjacent to that. It's just railroad property.
Yeah, there is.
Across
MTA. And he's sitting down here, he brought his checkbook too.
Okay, Mr. City Manager.
question was answered. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Trying to get some more money.
Were there any other? Yes, Mr.
Mr.
City
Mayor,
Attorney.
members of council, just for the record, this assessment is unchanged from the assessment of last year, except for the 3% annual inflationary
Cost of living.
escalator that was approved last year. So I wanted to make sure the record was clear and reflected that. Otherwise, there would have been a different noticing requirement.
Okay. I have no speaker cards here. Yes, Mr. Weaver.
I'll move 9.
Well, let's close the hearing. I want to know if there's any other
no.
discussion before we... Nothing. Okay, we'll close the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Well, we got to get you again.
That's okay. You guys are really champing at the bit to get out of here, I'm telling you. I can't
Must be a
even...
party going.
I thought
All
you
the
were taking
items.
us to dinner, that's why.
Yeah. Mr. Weaver.
I'll move 9A, 1 and 2.
Second.
I have a second. Mr. City Clerk.
Council members Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Yusefian.
Aye.
Mayor Draymond.
Yes. All right. Let us go to oral communications, I believe is next.
Returning to oral communications, Mr. Mayor and Council, discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. And the city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for an investigation and a report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kasakian. Our first speaker is Dr. Richard Espiritu, followed by Hugh Blanchard. Dr. Espiritu. Okay, let me go to Hugh Blanchard. Oh, here he comes. Mr. Blanchard, why don't you go ahead and we'll catch Mr. Espiritu.
Thank you. Mayor, council members, there are many aspects of the present discussion of moving the park rangers from Dukmajian Park that I'm not prepared or qualified to talk about.
Blanchard.
Excuse me?
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hugh Blanchard. Do you want my address? Or?
No.
All right. But there is one aspect that perhaps I can shed a little light on. In recent days, there's been several newsletters sent to the Glendale News Press by members of a 4th grade class in Glendale. And I won't read it, but basically they summarize their statements that the ranges should not be moved in the interest of public safety. I have had occasion to go up to Dukmajian Wilderness Park a number of times in the last several months. On each of these occasions, except once, the ranger's station is locked and closed. The only time in my experience that it has been open was on the school function in which a number of 4th graders went there and were allowed access to it. I'm not blaming the children, certainly, for their summaries, but certainly the adults that influence these letters, I think, should have some explaining to do, because surely some of these adults must know that the rangers are simply not there. So that's one thing that I would like to discuss with you, that there just are no rangers. If you were to go to the Dukmajian Wilderness Park tomorrow morning, you would not find the office open. It would be closed. If you went in the afternoon, it would be closed. It's closed almost always. Another aspect of the Dukmajian Park, which I have discussed with the Recreation Department, is the question of maps. There is only one map now that's available. I can pass it on to the mayor if you wish, but it is not distributed at the park. There are no maps available. Inside the ranger station, there is a much better map that apparently will be available at some time in the future. How many years that's going to be in the future, I do not know. Whether any of us will be alive when this map is published, I do not know. But that's a problem, that there simply are no maps for these trails. The third item I'd like to mention is the trail markers. Many people that go to Dukmajian Wilderness Park go with the idea of going up to Mount Lukens, which is over 5,000 feet high, the highest point within the city of Los Angeles, and within 300 yards of the city of Glendale. It's a good 2 or 3 mile hike to get up there. It's about, something like 3,000 feet elevation gain. Well, after you pass 1 or 2 trail markers within a couple of hundred feet of the ranger station, there are no trail markers. I've had a problem, which I went up there for the first time. It was a cloudy day. I had to turn back without reaching the summit because I simply did not know where to go. So that's another thing that should be done. I've had an occasion to discuss this with the Recreation Department of the City of Glendale. Specifically, I talked to a Mr. Jeff Weinstein, whose business card lists him as the Trails and Open Space Specialist. He states that much of what I've said has merit, but he's not prepared at this time to know when, if any of these things, will be done. So that's about all I have to say. I think that the Dipmagian Wilderness Park is one of the crown jewels of the city of Glendale, but right now I don't think it's being handled properly.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to have to say that.
That's quite all right. We're here to hear you. Let's see if we can, I know Mr. Chapchin isn't here, but if we can get your name and phone number.
Yes, I think they have it there.
Let's make sure that Mr. Chapchin is here.
This is what I'm saying to you is simply based on my experience.
Yes.
I'm not, it's not third hand. It's my experience in going up to the Dipmagian Wilderness Park.
Right. Let's see if we can't get you an answer, Mr. Blanchard, and we'll get back to you on that. And we thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Richard Espiritu. Thank you for letting me take you out of order. Not that you were out of order, just meaning.
That's quite all right, Mr. Mayor.
Followed by Margaret Hammond.
Good evening once again, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and staff. I'm readdressing the issue of English language proficiency. Last week, I had given you documentation regarding the federal government. When I addressed the issue of the Americans with Disability, I presented federal law, state law, case law, as well as statistical information regarding the people within the city of Glendale. With the language English proficiency, I'm going to address all those issues, including case law. And Mr. Howard, would you please thank Mr. Garcia for informing me last week that they have a committee put together that's going to be addressing this issue, and they are looking into statistical information. I'm going to be giving you some information regarding the U.S. Census Bureau. It gives you a breakdown of people from Lithuania, Nigeria, every place in the United States. But they also have a special website, and you're going to have the website. It has a classification of English, speaks English well, Spanish, English very well, speaks English not well, speaks English not at all. They also have that for Indo-European language, Asian Pacific Islanders. Regarding the Spanish population, it's approximately 26%. The Indo-European here in the city of Glendale is 28%, and the Pacific Islanders are 20%. The interesting thing is these are statistics that were presented a number of years ago. So I decided I'd contact the Glendale Unified School District, and I called them, sent them an email, and they provided me with the information on the ESL program. And it's very interesting. There are 3 major languages that are fully immersed ESL programs. Number 1 is Spanish, number 2 is Armenian, and number 3 is Korean. Last week, when I provided you information, regarding the police department's correctional facilities. Glendale Police Department, due to the fact that they now have an ICE contract, which allows them to have somewhere between 50 and 30 people in our city jail until they're taken to their court hearings, they provide a daily review in English and Spanish on the rules and regulation within the police department. After talking with the Glendale Police Department individuals who are in charge, they told me that they've had occasions where they needed to have people with Farsi, and they only have 2 jailers that speak Armenian. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week doesn't cut it, considering the fact, according to the U.S. Census, there are 53,840 Armenians in the city of Glendale, which represents approximately 27% in the year 2000. I'm sure that number has increased dramatically because the population at that time was only 194,000 and we're at 207, so there's some changes there. I'd like to present to members of the City Council and to Mr. Howard this documentation that I have. In next week, I will be presenting state law, and the following week, I'll be presenting case law regarding English language proficiency that the City of Glendale should take serious consideration with, and I hope this would help this committee in determining what the needs are for the City of Glendale. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Spiritu. Margaret Hammond, followed by James Demerjian.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, staff, and the audience out there. My name is Margaret Hammond, a private citizen of 50 years. And I feel, once again, I am addressing the what I brought up before about the pool, the money for the pool. That $1.2 million was appropriated for that pool. And it was on page 13 of this advisory report. I got this right from Jesse. He gave me his copy. And that was appropriated. There wasn't any doubt on it. But then somehow $325,000 of that money was given to the Hammond group for a building. Now this pool is needed in South Glendale. The residents there are working class, lower income working class. And they can't afford private pools like the people in the North End. I mean, sure, there's a few of them on Adams Hill have pools, but these people do not, the majority of them that live in that area, unless they have those little waiting pools. I keep asking why this money was given. When it was it was supposed to be used for the pool specifically. And no money was designated for this group. And now the other thing I would like to ask too, and hope somebody can tell me, is when is the next meeting for this pool to have another meeting on what's going to happen and how many people we can get. I hope enough people out there will email, will write, will phone, and support the idea of having this pool as soon as possible, and what is needed to get that pool as soon as possible. We're not going to get it if we keep giving away the money that's appropriated for it by the government, by the federal government. Now, my next thought is the group that was formed to fight against Caruso, the Americana deal, which it wasn't called, it was called Town Center. And when we got involved in that, it wasn't that we were against the town center. We were against giving Mr. Caruso the property. It was wrong. We had citizens who were very knowledgeable, some of them who are here this evening, who were part of that group. It was not formed by, General Growth? General Growth wasn't even in the picture when we started. I'll tell you where we started, from the Glendale Homeowners Council. We were a committee that formed from there, and they were all different homeowners groups that formed, that were part of that committee. I'm not going to name them. We were all sued, and as I said last week, I feel that if it came down, push came to shove, we could prove our point that what we said is right and is exactly what's happening, and that was why we were sued, because we said that that was going to be happening. The signs, the murals, the taking over the park, the whole thing, closing of the streets. All I'm saying is General Growth had nothing to do with our group. They came along after. The man that owned that property, the Galleria, passed away, was a private person, and he sold it. He was a young man, and he passed away before, or maybe just about the time that he sold the property to General Growth. So all this nonsense that it was General Growth that we formed our group is nonsense. We were formed long before that. We had taken up the fight before that. Now, the other thing that amazes me, is when we have businesses in Glendale over and over that they say they're not banquet halls, they advertise on the TV, they put up signs that they are, they're told that they can't be, and yet right on the front page of the paper, a restaurant, they're absolutely defying the courts and saying we're going to open anyway, whether you like it or not. Now, is this part of city business? I mean, is this why we get so many young people that defy our speeding laws and our other laws in the city? Because there's this feeling, we don't have to obey the law. We can do whatever we want, because we feel we want to. We don't care about our neighbors. We don't care about other residents in the city. We're going to do whatever we want. This says that it was a figment of the people's imagination that went into that restaurant. Well, okay, I have a few friends that were with me, and unless we were smoking something before we went in, I can testify exactly what happened in that restaurant. And there are other people from that group down there. So I'm saying it's absolutely amazing that this goes on, and that we're made to feel like we're idiots or something, and we have no rights, when we do have rights as neighbors and as residents of this city. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Margaret. James Demerjen, followed by Barry Allen.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, City staff, my name is James Demerjen for the record. I'm here to speak regarding the Demerjen residence on Linda Vista. I know it's been an issue that's been raised for you several weeks in a row. Last week, Councilman Najarian stated that the last issue that was holding him back from supporting the removal of the barrier was the possibility of exposure to liability should there, God forbid, an accident were to occur at the driveway and the street. California Government Code 830.6 is an affirmative defense, a shield, to actions brought against the city for a dangerous condition. So should there be a car accident with the driver and someone backing out of the driveway, we'll call them Plaintiff Peter. If they sue the city for a dangerous condition because the barrier was removed, he or she would be hard-pressed in proving that it was a dangerous condition first. Design immunity doesn't kick in until a court first holds that it is in fact a dangerous condition on the public road. So I believe that the sight distance is not an issue. The traffic, the amount of traffic on the street, it's a quiet street, is not an issue. So this hypothetical plaintiff of mine would be, again, hard-pressed in proving that this feature, the lack of a barrier, is dangerous. But again, should, let's say, a court hold that it is dangerous, the city is protected by 830.6, and that's after showing just three simple elements. I'll go over the second and the third because they coexist. And the first one is also an easy element to prove. Second one is discretionary authority. The City Council surely has that authority to make decisions of removal of barriers or placement of barriers. The Director of Public Works also has that discretionary authority. I believe our Traffic and Transportation Committee has that discretionary authority. The third element would be is the reasonableness of the design, that the design has to be reasonable. And the reasonableness is determined by whether an individual or a body like yourselves approve the plan in their capacity. So should this council, let's say, on an upcoming agenda, approve the removal of the barrier, the design would be deemed reasonable. The first element is the causal connection between the plan that is drawn and the actual implementation of the plan. And that would be very simple. The city would have to do one thing, is draw a hand-drawn document that shows what needs to be done. A simple road, the home, driveway, the barrier, an X going through it saying, remove this. And if that's implemented correctly, if it's done, it doesn't have to be done to the T, substantially similar to what was drawn, then the city can establish its design immunity under 830.6. In a recent case, Strupa v. City of Petaluma, the court kind of laxed the first element of the causal analysis in saying that there doesn't need to be a full-blown drawing of a road by an engineer or an engineering firm. In that case, I believe it was a city engineer who just drove around and looked at troubled areas and made a recommendation to the city with a work order, simple work order, and that work order was in that case not implemented completely, and in that case the city lost its immunity. But in this case, it's a very simple procedure. I believe it's just a removal of a barrier, so there wouldn't be a question of whether it's substantially similar to the plan or not. It's a simple removal. The plan would match the street, and the city would be immune. So, Councilman Jarian, rest assured, of course you don't want to be exposed to liability, but should you be sued, the city, you would be immune from liability. Thank you. And two things would be accomplished. One thing, your worries, the council's worries would be put to ease, because you wouldn't be liable, and the Demersians wouldn't be imprisoned in their own driveway for making a left turn onto Linda Vista. I thank you for your time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And just as a point of information, that is scheduled to come back on the agenda next Tuesday evening. Okay. All right. Barry Allen, followed by Tamara Movsesian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, and staff.
You're next.
What?
Thanks.
Let's start, Mr. Allen. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Allen.
That's right.
Let's start over.
Not a problem. I really can't talk a lot tonight. We're going to be, Barry Allen, by the way, Vanguardians. We're going to be taping a number of TV programs for our groups in Oxnard, so about accountability. And I do want to mention Councilmember Najarian. I want to thank you, and I hope you get that proclamation through for us in October, which will be our 4th year of publication. So I appreciate that also. And it's probably good to tag along with the issues of immunity and legal stuff in the city, that I know you probably took action on that bail bonds company whose state charter, state franchise had expired, and we certainly couldn't have them writing bail bonds that would not be enforceable. And that was information about 2 weeks ago or something like that. And I know we're going to follow up on that. Actually for the city attorney, in the last 10 or 12 days, we have been doing a Public Record Act request from a number of cities. And I want you to know that the city of Glendale, basically on their Public Records Act, are pretty compliant, and in many instances much more so than other cities. Now, some cities actually have in the city clerk's office the person that takes care of the records. Now, interestingly enough, the city of Los Angeles was one of the first ones to respond, and we requested everything that they could give us electronically, and by God, they gave us everything. They gave us the MOUs, they gave us the W3s, and they gave us their 100K clubs. Huntington Beach is doing the same. A couple of, I think it was Culver City, just mailed theirs and said, here it is. And but all in all, we've had to go back and request some of the additional information. But Glendale doesn't do too bad, with a couple of exceptions. and this is something that some of the council members may want to make their own requests on. We had requested the zip codes of the sworn fire personnel. Now, several years ago, we requested them, and we were given them. This year, we were told, no, you can't have them. A privacy issue. But actually, is it a privacy issue, gentlemen, or is it something that we need to know where our firefighters live in case there is an emergency and we need to recall some of them? City said no. Now, as you'll recall from our 100K club, there were there were 4 people on there, I believe, that were called city resource specialists. So we requested a job description on city resource specialists, never got it. We also requested information as to what their salaries were. And I don't know if it was a deliberate attempt to mislead us, but they provided the names of 35 city resource specialists, telling us that they got $35 an hour. Now, we had one of those people getting $194,000. Lots of bells ringing. Is this all overtime? And we called some of the department heads and said, no, we had about 31 hours overtime. They actually get $92,000 a year. So, that's an issue that really strikes to the heart of information that the city's providing. It's the wrong information, and directly from the city finance department. Now, my understanding is, when we talk about our PeopleSoft program, I don't know how many of those 35 people are PeopleSoft programmers, but when you talk about the millions of dollars it's costing us, and one of our complaints before was $240,000 just for one person on a contract. I think we need to take a look at really what that software is doing for the city. We also requested, there was a fire battalion chief who was even beat out Mr. Starford at $250,000 salary. Now, we requested to know how much that actually cost us. Pension, benefits, all the other stuff, and we were told, it's none of your business. Now, I think it is our business. These are issues that the public needs to know how their money is being spent, especially when money is so tight today. And we also asked for the patient census on the wellness program. We're spending at least $1 million on the wellness program. We could contact that out to one of our hospitals, but we don't have a census. There's more, but thank you. I'm Barry Allen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Allen. We have Tamara Movsesian, followed by Harry Zabos.
Good evening. Sorry, but me ask, why city take care landlord and not take care tenant? Սա իմ գրածն է, որ շատ կներեք, եթե կարելի է փոխանցեք, շնորհակալություն, որ ես հայերեն խոսեմ, ինքը իմանա չչարչարվի։ Ես կասեմ հայերեն, որ բոլորը ով հասկանում է հասկանա, ով չէ թարգմանեն, եւ TV նայողներն էլ իմանան, որ պայքարել միշտ պետք է։ Վերջին անգամ երբ ես այստեղ էի, ես խոսեցի նրա մասին, որ իմ տանտերը երկրորդ անգամ դատի տվե անհիմն ինձ։ Դատը ես շահեցի, շատ գոհ եմ, եղավ ժուրիով 12 հոգի, այնպես որ ամեն ինչ եղել է արդար։ Եվ ուզում եմ ձեզ բոլորիդ ասեմ, երբ մարդ մեղավոր չի, վերջը վերջով հաղթում է, ճիշտ է, առողջության քայքայման հաշվին, նյութական վնասի հաշվին, բայց հաղթում է, որ բոլոր բարձով ապրողների իմանան եւ պայքարեն տան տերերի անփույթության համար։ Եվ նորից եմ ներողություն խնդրում, բայց ես պետք է ասեմ, 8 տարի առաջ Սիթին լրիվ ուրիշ դիրք ուներ։ Բոբ Յուսուփյանը կհիշի, որովհետև այն ժամանակ Ռաֆի Մանուկյանի հետ այստեղ էի։ Այս ժամանակ Սիթին ուներ ծրագիր, անկախ նրանից բողոք կա թե չկա, ժամանակ առ ժամանակ, ես չգիտեմ ինչ ցուցակ դուք ունեիք, բայց գնում էին եւ ստուգում էին բոլոր տները, ինչ վիճակում են։ Բողոք պետք չէ։ Ես դա լավ հիշում եմ, որովհետև մի 2 տարի էր, երբ ես եկել էի, ես ապրում էի եւ զարմացա, երբ մեր տան տեղը խուճապի մեջ էր, որ ամեն ինչ շտկի, որովհետև Սիթիից գալու էին ստուգելու, բայց ոչ ոք չէր բողոքել։ Եվ տունն էլ վատը չէր իմիջայլոց։ Ինչու հիմա չի արվում։ Դրանից բացի, էլի դուք կհիշեք, որ 122 Նորթ Ադամս շենքը, երբ մի քանի տարի առաջ առան նոր տերերը, նրանք բոլոր Section 8-ով ապրողներին ուզում էին հանեին այդ տանի, այդ շենքից։ Ես այն ժամանակ նոր էի տեղափոխվել այդ շենքը, եւ բոլոր Section 8-ով ապրողները եւ ուրիշները հավաքվեցին, եկան եւ խնդրեցին ձեզ շտկել այդ հարցը։ Նույնպես այդ հարցը շտկվեց շատ կարճ ժամանակում, դուք հիշում եք դա, չի կարող չհիշեք։ Ինչու է ժամանակ Սիթին հզոր ուժ էր, կարող էր տան տերերին կարգի բերել, սանձահարել, իսկ հիմա ինչու է թուլացել Սիթին, ես չեմ հասկանում։ Չեմ հասկանում, խնդրում եմ ինձ բացատրեք դա։ Որովհետև ես չեմ կարողանում պատկերացնել, եթե մարդ քանի կենդանի է, ոնց կարող ասի I don't care։ Եթե փոսը փողոցում ջուր է լցվում, ջանին ասել եմ, մի քանի ժամանակ հետո շտկեցին, ճիշտ է։ Ճիշտ եմ ասում, որ ես եկա ասի Բրոդվեյ Գլենդել խաչմերուկում փոսա, քանի ամիս է այդ ջուրը ակերը ընկնում են մեջը։ Հիմա ամբողջ Կալիֆոռնիայում ֆայր է, բայց մեր գարաժի բոլոր տերերի մեքենաները կանգնում են փողոցում, բայց մեր գարաժը, մեր տան տիրուհին տվել է բարձով եւ տեսեք ինչ է գարաժի մեջ։ Բոլորը վառվող թղթեր եւ աղբ։ Դրանից բացի մի բան էլ ասեմ, Նորթ Բելմոնտ 2, 3, 4 համար շենքի դիմաց կա մի ծառ, որը արդեն առնվազն 2 տարի է չորացած է, մի հատ տերև չկա վրան, բայց ոչ մեկի չի հուզում, որ այդ ծառից կարող է նույնպես ֆայր լինի։ Իսկ այդ ծառը շատ հեշտ կարելի է կտրել, չէ։ Դուք կզարմանաք, ինչու է դա ինձ հուզում։ Ինձ հուզում է, որտև ես միշտ կյանքում օգնել եմ մարդկանց։ Արա, Նաջարանի ծնողները ինձ ճիշտ կհասկանան, որովհետև իրենք աշխատում են բոլոր մարդկանց օգնած լինեն։ Ես շատ եմ հարգում ձեր ծնողներին։ Բայց դուք արա, դուք տենց չեք անում, կներեք ինձ, 1000 անգամ ներողություն, ոնց որ իմ տղայիս եմ ասում։
Okay, Ms. Movsesian, let me just say
Yes,
that...
and...
Ms. Movsesian, please.
Մի բան էլ ասեմ։
No, ma'am. Let me just speak for a moment.
Եղավ, okay.
Let me just speak for a moment. I've read your letter. I understand what you're saying. There's nothing I can do for you here and now. We can have someone contact you to talk to you about the Section 8 issue and whether or not there is such a thing as an emergency issue under Section 8 and whether or not that would pertain to you. And roughly and generally whether or not the city can become involved in the landlord-tenant issue you describe. I want to make sure that, well, your address is here, and your phone number is as well, yes.
Yep.
So let us do that. Can you give me a rough idea as to when you will contact her, at least to get some kind of dialogue? I'm not sure, Mr. Taktalian, you're the one to speak to at this point.
He has met with her several times.
All right.
And I will make contact with her tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. Okay, may I please... Artie, could you please give this to Mr. Taktalian?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moseffian. Okay, Harry Zavos, followed by Isabel... I'm sorry, I can't make out the Valencia, maybe? Valencia. Good evening, Counselor.
Council, my name is Harry Zavos, and what brings me to the Council tonight is this article in the Press Citizen, Council aims to nix tensions. I must confess that over the years on matters before this Council, in addition to those cited in this article, I've noticed with some sadness some individuals who, with regard to legitimate differences on issues, have used them as a vehicle to express ethnic suspicion or hostility. But I must confess that until I read this article, I did not realize fully the more virulent expression of those tensions. On occasions before this Council, I've expressed my firm belief based on being involved in conflict resolution. But I believe differences can be bridged when there's a sufficient occasion for individuals to understand and appreciate the other's point of view. I'm not naive enough to ignore the reality that there are, for some individuals, that's just not possible. But I have a hopeful belief that for most of us, understanding is possible, differences can be reached, and tension can be replaced by respect and mutual understanding, and it doesn't happen willy-nilly. It takes effort. And it's for that reason I've come here to publicly commend you, the Council in general, and you, Mayor, in particular, for shining a spotlight on this blot in our city and taking a proactive stance to try to rid us of it. And I would hope that every segment of the community will support you in this effort to bring us together and in your effort to find an affirmative answer to that gleeful question, can't we just get along?
Thank you, Professor Zavos. Isabel Valencia, followed by Yegnine Nazarian.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody, council member. Just stopped tonight over here to let the people know in the Glendale City that we have a phone number that they can call in regards to the rent control. We have volunteers working with us right now. The phone number is 818-792-9719. We have volunteers who speak Armenian, Farsi, Russian, Tagalog, Spanish, and also English. Feel free to call, and any question that you have in regards to this campaign that we start now. We're getting in touch with many people that they have different campaigns in other cities, thanks God, and that's what only I want to say tonight. 818-792-9719. Please contact anytime, leave your message, your name and phone number that we can call you back. Besides that, I want to say it's very sad to see a person who never asked to come over here, to leave their country, to leave their cultures and everything, but they were forcing for different politics situations. It's very sad to see that lady, how she's treating right now, and it's not only her, it's a lot of people is in the same situation. And I don't know, I'm gonna find out if it's fine for us to come over here and say the names and the numbers and the address that these things is happen every time. These people doesn't come over here because they don't know that they have right to complain. They are very afraid. They keep with a mentality that they were abusing back then, and they think that they can do anything about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yegnine Nazarian, followed by Bill Weissman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Yegnine Nazarian. I'm also speaking on the issue of rent control. The economic and financial turmoil is ongoing. Myths about rent control. Over 25 years in California, rent control has proven itself to be the only means of controlling the inflationary spiral of rents ruining our economy. None of the evils predicted by the opponents have come true. Rents and rental condition in uncontrolled areas have gotten worse. As though the public would believe anything, anti-rent control groups repeat the same myths. Rent control doesn't work. This is a popular slogan because it explains nothing. Rent control certainly keeps rents down, which is why the opponents oppose it. Rent control never pretended to be the panacea. It is especially effective without vacancy control. How home prices will fall. In 1990 to 2000, local home prices in uncontrolled cities fell, while those in rent-controlled cities rose dramatically. Rent control helps people and tenants save up the down payment, raising demand and therefore the price for houses. Only highly desirable cities need rent control. To maintain economic balance in the community, rent control gives a city a prestige. Neighborhood will deteriorate. Without rent control, our city deterioration needs building inspectors to force landlords to fix their buildings, not being paid to look the other way. Landlords without rent control lack incentive. They get higher rents without making repairs. Rent control destroyed Santa Monica. Did it really? In what way? Will the landlords take us on a tour of destruction? No, because it's never been the truth. If anything, state-imposed vacancy control has improved much of the affordable housing there. Landlord did that. Let the free market solve the problem. Having tenants organizing for rent control is the free market. A consumer revolt like a boycott. The market forces have had 25 years to solve the housing crisis. They built condos, not apartments. Supply failed to meet demand. Time for result. If rent go up, rich tenants move in. Rents are going up everywhere, not just in one building, so why move? Tenants pull in their belts instead. Our median income has not increased along with rising rents. Our stores lose sales to our renting population, who pay more and more rent. Landlords first, merchants zero. Do our merchants need this? Rent control brings in a bad element. Rent control stabilizes neighborhoods. Tenants can form a neighborhood watch. Without rent control, crime has risen. Landlords can always evict problem tenants, even under rent control. Rent control, Beverly Hills, Palm Springs, Santa Monica, and San Francisco have not invited the bad elements. Landlords will go broke, lose life savings. By our Constitution, rent control must permit all expenses plus a decent profit from rents. It is beyond blue chip investment. Landlords in the rent control California cities have had 25 years to divest, but they haven't. Why is that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bill Weissman, followed by Doug Wallace.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff. My name is Bill Weissman from far north Glendale, and I actually hadn't planned on speaking tonight, but since I am wearing my Glendale Trail Team's t-shirt, I felt the need to respond just to a couple of remarks that were made earlier tonight by Mr. Blanchard regarding the hiking trails in Duke-Magian Park. First of all, we do have trail maps. This one is of all the fire roads and trails in the city of Glendale, and it's available on the city's website. There is also a detailed trail map of Duke-Magian Park that unfortunately is not always available because they keep it in the kiosk that's at the head of the main hiking trail that goes up into the park. And there aren't always copies there. Sometimes people take them or, and they're not available. But there does actually exist a map of the trails in Duke-Magian Park. One of the issues regarding the signage is that both of the main trails that go up to the top of Mount Lukens, which is the Rim of the Valley Trail on the west or the Crescenta View Trail on the east, both of those trails at various points do go out of the city boundaries of Glendale. And so obviously they go into areas where we can't have any effect on signage. I would agree with Mr. Blanchard that we could use more signage up there. Some of those trails are kind of steep and dangerous, and he mentioned, going up to the top of Mount Lukens and turning around because it was foggy or misty and there wasn't enough signage. that was a smart decision. It's not a good place to be hiking up there when it's cloudy. It is steep terrain, and it can be dangerous if the visibility is limited. But some of his points were well taken. I just wanted to add the information about the availability of the trail maps. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weissman. Doug Wallace, followed by Rita Unikian.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I actually have a written version of my remarks, which I'd like to give to the council because, as a public speaker, I leave a lot to be desired. I am the Assistant Regional Commissioner of AYSO Region 88, and I've been authorized to read a statement from AYSO to the council, which I will attempt to do in the allotted time for a change. AYSO is asking that the council reverse the decision of the Parks Commission to start taxing our children for the use of the fields in the city's public parks. At its meeting held just before the 4th of July holiday weekend, the Parks Commission, acting on a proposal from the Parks Department, voted to start charging $4 an hour for youth groups like AYSO, Little League, and CSA to use the baseball and softball fields of the city parks. Moreover, that fee will rise to $14 an hour over the next 4 years. The Glendale News Press estimated the additional cost to AYSO alone for the coming season will be approximately $35,000, or about $10 per player. Multiply that by 3.5 when the fee ratchets up to the $14 an hour level, and we'll be forced to more than almost 50% increase the current level of $80 a season. AYSO already pays over $45,000 in fees to the city of Glendale to use a sports complex over the course of a year, receiving a discount for 6 months of the year and paying the same full amount as adult groups for the other half of the year. Fees were the largest expense after uniforms in our $328,000 budget last season and will nearly double for the coming season if the new tax is allowed to stand. That will be a major blow to the financial health of our program. Moreover, we will be paying to use fields that aren't even soccer fields because the Parks Department continues to ignore the need to provide soccer fields while maintaining more than a dozen baseball and softball fields. If the kids are going to be taxed to use our city parks, at least convert some of the fields they're going to be charged for to soccer fields. To add insult to injury, we're also going to be charged a fee to have containers at the fields to store the goals, flags, and striping equipment we need to make makeshift fields out of the baseball fields. There is a fundamental policy issue presented by the Parks Commission's actions. Namely, is it appropriate to convert the public fields in the city parks that taxpayers' dollars already pay for into enterprise operations that generate revenue? This is what has been done. Has the Parks and Recreation Department become the Parks and Revenue Department? Is the city so desperate for revenue that it needs to tax children who want to play sports in the city parks? The explanation that the new tax on organized youth athletic organizations is needed to close the budget gap for the Parks Department is merely a pretext that doesn't stand up to analysis. If this was a stopgap, budget-driven necessity for one fiscal year, the fee wouldn't more than triple over the next 4 years and continue into perpetuity after that. And there's no guarantee that the fee will not be increased after it hits the $14 an hour in 2012. Further discrediting the budget excuse is the fact that since the baseball and softball fields aren't designated enterprise operations with specific enterprise funds, the fees will probably go into the general fund, and they won't go directly to the Parks Department. There'll be no offset to the 5% cuts in their budget. That's another reason why this so-called fee to be charged the youth groups is really a tax on the kids. A fee would at least go directly to maintain and improve the fields that are generating the funds. But there's no guarantee that will happen. AYSO, Little League, CSA, and other youth organizations provide a service in the form of youth soccer, baseball, and softball programs that the City of Glendale does not provide. Look at the fully loaded costs associated with administering the adult softball and soccer leagues that the city runs. The youth groups, with their unpaid volunteers, are providing youth sports programs far more cheaply than if the city ran those programs. Taxing those groups for the privilege of providing a service that the city would have to spend more money to provide does not make sense. Finally, there's a question whether the Parks Commission can legally impose this tax on youth groups. The city attorney should address the issue whether the Commission's actions comply with Proposition 218. How can a group of appointed officials and government employees impose a tax on children without any elected official participation in the decision? How can a group, no notice was given to the youth groups that the fees were on the agenda for the commission meeting that was held just before a 3-day weekend. It wasn't as if the Parks Department didn't know how to contact them. When the Parks Department raised the issue of charging fees for use of the park fields in 2007, there was unanimous opposition from every youth group. In the face of that opposition, the department chose not to present the proposal to the Parks Commission last year. Was the Commission even made aware of that? We don't know, but we believe the answer is no. Instead, it was troops that we had negotiated, and it was told that the groups had negotiated and agreed to the fee schedule. That's not what happened at the quarterly meeting.
Hey, Mr. Wallace.
On behalf of the children of Glendale and their parents who pay taxes, we urge the City Council to review this action and reverse this tax on kids. Park fields shouldn't be a source of revenue, and taxing children to play on them is not good public policy.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. So you know, Councilmember Yusefian had raised this issue with me, and I don't know with whom else, but we'll be finding out some answers for you later. So you might want to stick around until after oral communications. Yes, we've agendized it, but...
I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that.
It was before you arrived. But
we're a bunch of novices at this sort of thing, to be perfectly honest.
But you still may hear from a council member or two on the subject, so you might want to...
All right. Thank you very much, Mr.
You're welcome. Rita Unikian, followed by Herbert Milano.
Hi. Happy 4th of July. And my name is Rita Unikian. I have lived in Glendale since 1989. First of all, I am single parent and have volunteered at the Glendale schools for 12 years. The reason of my concern is to ask the city council members to please consider looking into rent control, especially for all low-income residents in Glendale who are struggling to make a living. I have handouts that I needed to distribute to Glendale residents to sign and support my cause. Thank you for your consideration. First of all, I think I'm good to speak English because my friend is here, but I'm better good to speak English. I like it you remember for all the time I'm here for in the Glendale rent control, but I'm very proud of Mr. Bob Yusufian. Last time is very helped me and explained to me something for rent control, and I like it for told for everybody, for council members. I'm very proud of good people is here, but I know it for rule for the little bit hard for Glendale is rent control, because I know it is very honor in here and is not like it for rent control. But remember, Mr. Dryman, is the lot of owner when I'm talk to owner for this rent control. Everybody's told me water is expensive, trash can. I know it rule. Trash can is very important for the very expensive for charge for city. That's why lady in rent is very higher. I'm said I know it for city is the one bring it for the petition into rent control in Glendale. I know it is hard, but when is that petition is the already I find that attorney, good attorney for Mr. Ken Galson. I know it is the best, is the help, is the resident in Glendale, and I think another Mr. Mike, I don't know last name, that guy is the helper to me for the rent control, and these two women is the helper to me. I know it for the people is help me, because everybody right now is sad for the rent. Rent is very important. I'm not told for gas, I'm not told anything, because when you don't have a gas, you not drive in the car, you walk or bicycle, and very healthy. But this is very important for rent control in resident in Glendale. Already you know it for a lot of people is here, is low income. Everybody when is told me I'm not owner or I'm tenant all the time. My owner is charged me for 100 more. This is very ridiculous. This is not good for the owner. Is not help resident. But I'm very lucky for the Glendale city is the help it for resident when is everybody together is good petition into the ballot and signature for that petition, not my paper. That petition then is very soon, I think, is rent control very soon in Glendale. But I hope my city, Mr. Bob Yusufian, I know it is very helped me. I'm very proud of Mr. Bob Yusufian, and I hope is the when he's told me is help it and promise. I know it for the explain it for resident for the which is help it, or sometimes I'm called for city clerk. Mr. Katachian is help me, or somebody is here. All people is help me. Is the attorney. I'm very, Mr. Scott. I'm very proud of with you. I know you the best attorney for city. I know it is very hard, but I'm very happy for that paper. Is very help me. I'm confused. I don't know which I'm go straight, but you told me which model, which step by step in this rent control. Thank you very much. God bless you. And next time for the happy 4th of July.
Thank you, Ms. Unikian. Herbert Milano.
Good evening. My name is Herbert Milano, Mayor Raymond, members of the City Council. Sometimes I come here with certain objectives to bring sometimes a philosophical point about governance. And sometimes my thoughts get derailed by a presentation that I hear, and this is about the third time that I hear about this situation of bringing back the concept of rent control, an issue that was worked heavily back in 2001 and 2002. And I know that I put about 2 years of my life into finding a resolution for it. You know, that all those hours were, it cost me a tremendous amount of money in terms of money that I did not earn. And we learned something from that. We learned that there are alternatives to the type of draconian measures that are taken in other cities, that we cannot simply react to the issues that a segment of the population demands. And also we find that, you know, landlords, just like any other people, are individuals as well with their own faults and their own weaknesses. And sometimes we are able to find solutions through mediation, and that's what we did. I sat through hundreds of mediations dealing with precisely the issues that this lady brings to you. It is my hope that the lessons that we learned during that process, and I know Mr. Draymond, you were not here, and Mr. Narjana, you were not, but they were really practical, that we worked through, you know, many hours and many months to try to find a solution that would be different. Many people are unaware of the difficulties of evicting bad tenants with crime records, because the landlord is afraid of reporting through the just cause for eviction to get rid of a bad tenant, or to ask for corroboration from another tenant. There are issues about crime that are fairly significant, and it is my hope that during this discussion on housing that you're planning to have again, that maybe I'll have an opportunity to present to some of the tenants the issues that we discussed and the difficulties that arise out of a situation that has to do oftentimes with supply and demand. City that is very safe because of its makeup and its police department and its governance, that is attractive to many people. The city where a lot of people speak Armenian, and there is an extended family availability that is also very attractive. And there is a limit to what we can actually construct in terms of new affordable housing. So given all those conditions, Glendale is a prime city that attracts a lot of people. And obviously we worked in supply and demand at the end of the day. And we do have expenses that at the end of the day have to be met. For many landlords, especially those that are already retired and in their 70s, you know, they are counting on that investment. You know, they don't have CalPERS to provide them, you know, with a hefty pension at the end of their days. You know, they have their investments And that investment is usually that particular property. And as they get older and feeble and their medical bills pile up, that money comes from those particular investments. And people forget that oftentimes those investments did not come out of nothing. They came out of a significant amount of sacrifice to actually put that initial investment forward and maintain it. I know that when I bought my building here in Glendale, I was paying 11% interest. I didn't make any money for about 3 to 4 years. So there was a reason why I was very much taken aback at the actions that the City Council was taking. But we learned from it. We learned that the problem was not across the whole city. We knew that the problem was occurring precisely at the time that buildings were sold. So we worked through those, and we provided education. We provided a way of resolving issues that were contentious. And oftentimes there's an issue about income. And that's one of the reasons why I come before you, because those individuals with limited incomes or restricted incomes are being impacted negatively by the rise in the utilities that we have. And the utility users tax is impacting them as well. And eventually, we need to come to face the issue that the significant salary and pension increase and benefits that we have provided so many in our city since 2001 are having a negative impact on the finances, and the source of providing the funds for that deficit is GWP. And so I'm very sorry that many people are finding the pinch, but I think that we have to realize that we need to rethink how we govern and how we plan, and how we create our budgets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Milano. That was our last speaker card. I will close oral communications. Let me go to my colleagues, see if they have comments. Mr. Yusefi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of items. On the first speaker, I think it's important that we provide the trail maps. I understand that it's gone, but we need to restock them. I think we all see on television people who go up on the trails and they get lost, and then they have to send helicopters over and everything else, and it costs a fortune because they got lost. It would be easier and cheaper if we just provided trail maps. The other thing is the gentleman talked about moving the ranger station. My recollection is that this council said use the $15,000 to increase the ranger patrol and the presence on in Brand Park, and do not move the station. So I don't know why they keep insisting that we said move the station.
They don't remember correctly.
So they don't remember. So that's why I'm trying to remind them, stop writing letters in the paper. We're not moving the station. The other item is to answer some of the questions that my good friend Margaret, who for the first time I see her in green, lime green, as a matter of fact. Lime pie is one of my favorite pies, by the way. Not pink, because everybody says the lady with the pink hat, so it's green this time. The issue is $1.2 million on pool. And the question is that why wasn't that all allocated on the CDBG? It is my understanding, and Mr. City Attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, that we had allocated a large sums of money in that account, and CDBG, the federal government, has requirements that you have to spend the money. You cannot bank it too much or you will lose the money. And that was the reason. And since they were, and if you go back and you look at the presentation that was given by Parks and Rec to the CDBG, they basically said they're going to start in 2009, finish by 2011, which means there's plenty of time, at least 2 go-arounds to make that $300,000 that they need to add on to the pool, and even more so, which will not get us into trouble with the feds, because we will start using some of that money. An issue on Americana brand, the company's owner who died was owned by Donahue Shriver, if you wanted to remember the name. That's what they were. My understanding is that the coordinating council, when the Donahue Shriver was trying to build so-called Glendale Galleria 3, Mr. Weaver was still on the council at the time, and maybe he can correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time They were offered the project. They came with a design. There was an EIR that was done on a different design. The Glendale Homeowners Coordinating Council had an opportunity to look at that, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Sharkey looked at that. And it was later on decided not to be approved because, if I'm not mistaken, they were asking between $62 to $65 million subsidy.
That was the
Didn't
main
pencil
reason.
out for them.
Didn't pencil out because the hotel market went south.
Right, because they had a hotel there in there, so it didn't pencil out. That's why they walked away. Nobody took it away from them. They just kind of bowed out and said, "Thank you very much." And you're right, Margaret. After he sold the project, he died within, I think, 3 months of that sale. Issue of rent control, I just want the public to know that I did spend a good half an hour, at least another 10 minutes with Mr. Draymond talking to Mrs. Unikian, and after Mr. Draymond left, I spent another 20 minutes talking to her and the other lady, explaining to them the procedures, what it takes to put something on the ballot. I am to tell you that she has a complete understanding of how to put an item on the ballot. She realizes it is a very difficult task, but nevertheless, she understands all the legal procedures. And that's it. One other item, as the older lady who spoke Armenian brought some pictures, which I think staff does have. One of the issues that we have talked about many, many times in here is landlords renting out the parking spaces or the garages to other people, and she was showing in the pictures that most of the stuff that's in the garages is mostly paper and garbage, and she was asking, would that create a trash? And we have talked about it several times, but there was some possibility of maybe doing some kind of a law that forbids the landlords from renting these things out, because we require each unit to have a certain parking, but we don't require them to
use them. You're speaking my language. Mr.
Somehow, I think whether it's at the housing or whether it's at council, we need to deal with that issue, because it's getting worse and worse.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Yusikli. Mr. Najarian?
Just a couple items. Mr. Howard, a particular bail bond company, parks its vehicle with loud advertising on it at the corner of Broadway and Isabel. Reportedly, that bail bond company has had its license to write business revoked. Do we, as a city, have any grounds to prohibit that vehicle from remaining on the streets?
Well, possibly under our noise ordinance. I have to look into what the exact problem is. The issue of the revocation of its state licensure to be able to engage in the business of providing bail bonds is something that's beyond our local jurisdiction. But we can certainly look at whether or not there's any violation of our noise ordinance or something else.
It's right out there. It's not the one with the mean dog on it. It's the other one.
We can take a look. We can take a look at what the issue is.
I don't want to say the name to give them any additional advertising.
We'll take a look at it.
Next, Mr. Allen, here we are. We're ready to give you a proclamation, and you tell us that you're courting other city councils in Culver City, and Huntington Beach, and Oxnard. How do you think that makes me feel? Spurned, I must tell you. But we're working on that. And as soon as the mayor's arthritis eases up a little bit, we can get that pen in his hand to sign the proclamation. Mr. Howard, the gentleman from the Demergent family came and gave a discourse on the Government Code 830.6, governmental immunity. Next week, when you come before us...
That will be included in the report next week in some detail.
Please include some jury verdicts against municipalities alleging the affirmative defense of design immunity, just for kicks.
So we won't probably include jury verdicts per se, because, as you know, juries can base their decision on a whole host of things, partially based on instructions and partially based on their own determination, whether or not they're nullifying it.
That's my point, Mr. Howard. Just give us a few maybe some of the 7- and 8-figure awards.
What we will point out, not only what 830.6 says and what the elements are, but we will also point out some of the fact that trial court judges, notwithstanding what we understand the courts of appeal and the Supreme Court to have said about the breadth of that immunity, but sometimes trial courts are basically going to say, well, I'm going to let the jury determine it. So we're going to point those things out. And we also point out the differences between an affirmative defense and indemnity, because an affirmative defense essentially requires the city to go through the cost and expense of moving through to possibly the point of summary adjudication or even trial, whereas indemnity immediately shifts the responsibility. But all those will be pointed out in the report.
And lastly, to Mr. Wallace and the AYSO, I think the AYSO has to realize that the council has made huge strides in the past year to obtain funding for additional first-class soccer fields with the turf. We're looking at the Columbus School site. We're looking at sites up on adjacent to the sports complex. We're looking at even some other sites that I think are being batted around, not to get too far into that. So and as a father whose children play AYSO, I mean, I'm right there with you. We did not know, this did not come before the council, the fee increase. But I think in general, the parents of AYSO players need to know that we are and have been for several years looking at every opportunity to create more soccer fields, not baseball fields or softball fields, soccer fields throughout the city of Glendale to accommodate the growing rise of popularity and the success of the AYSO Division 88. So we're going to continue to work on that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Najarian. Mr. Weaver, anything?
No.
I have just a couple of things. Just so that those of you who aren't aware know, with regard to the rent control issue and Mrs. Unikian, since the first time that she has appeared here at council, I think I have spoken to her, I think easily 6 times. The question has always been, how do you move this forward to put it on the ballot? I think I've explained and explained and re-explained and re-explained. I know Mr. Kasakian has done the same, Mr. Yusefian has, Mr. Najarian has, Mr. Weaver has, the city attorney has. Unfortunately, it's not something that this council can wave a wand and just do for you. We've also explained the history of the rent control issue in Glendale. Mr. Milano raised part of that this evening, and he's quite right. I was not on the council at the time, but I was a participant by being in the audience, and I remember very clearly those days. And I think those were the first time I laid eyes on you, Mr. Milano. A little different without the mustache and goatee that you had, and the hair was a little shorter and a little darker in those days. But I do remember all of the work the city did. The thing I think, before people out in the city start dividing this council up as to who is the bad guy that's supportive of those folks who don't want rent control or do want rent control, I have not yet heard from a single member of this council, whether it be Mr. Yusefian, Mr. Najarian, Mr. Quintero, or Mr. Weaver, anybody ask this council or this chair to please put the issue of rent control as a ballot issue. No one has raised that issue to me yet. None of them have said, you know what, we need a series of study sessions on rent control. So I am very happy to entertain discussion and so on, but I'm not hearing that as a consensus from any of my colleagues. Not only not as a consensus, I'm not hearing that request so far. So I just want to put that out there for the record. The last thing, and the only other thing I want to get at, is also with the Demergen issue. Mr. City Attorney, I suppose you'll also, while you're talking about those jury verdicts, you'll also show us the list of cases where the City of Glendale has demanded or insisted upon a resident of the city of Glendale has required that they indemnify the city for a public safety issue on which the city's own experts have determined is safe. I'd like to hear that list.
We will show you that very short list.
Yes, I know how short it is, too. So, in any case, that we will be looking at next week. We have, if I could entertain a motion to adjourn in the memory of Bill Lofthouse, Clara Ralston, and Cheryl Ann Schiff.
So moved.
Thank you. We're adjourned.